Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Answers on Eschatology. My name is Dan Derry, and I am the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. So, before I start, I just want to take a minute and I want to thank all of my viewers for your time, your comments, and your questions, and just the kind words that you've shared with me in response to these videos and the articles that I post. So it's greatly appreciated. Continue to watch and listen. If you like what you see here and what you're hearing, go to my website www.reformedeschatology.com, and there is a wealth of information there. You will be blessed. So once again, thanks to everyone, and you're a blessing to me as well. Keep your comments, your questions coming. It only helps me to grow and challenges me in different ways. So yeah, it's been great so far. Thank you again. Anyways, in response to one of our viewers' post who asked me to look at Acts chapter 1 verses 9 to 11, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a break from our Matthew chapter 24 study and just take the next few videos and share some thoughts regarding Acts chapter 1. Now, this particular viewer, he asked me to help him understand how we harmonize the prophecy of the return of the Lord in Acts 1:11 with the AD 70 coming of Jesus. Okay, and hey, this is a great question. This is a valid concern. How do we harmonize what appears to be a visible bodily return of Jesus with a spiritual covenantal coming of the Lord in AD 70? So before I get into a lot of those details, I want to start this first video out by demonstrating that the language the dispensationalists use and cling to support their doctrine is actually built upon a terrible foundation, okay? It's built upon sand. And here's what I mean. Go with me to Acts chapter 1, and let's read verses 9 to 11, and we'll get into this. Acts 1 and 9. After he had said these things, he was lifted up while they were looking on, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And as they were gazing intently into the sky while he was going, behold, two men in white clothing stood beside them. They also said, Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into the sky? This Jesus, who has been taken up from you into heaven, will come in just the same way as you've watched him go into heaven. Excuse me. And here's where the dispensationalists say, well, look, here's our proof. The scripture says, in just the same way as they saw him go, he is to return. Well, he left in a body. He left visibly. That means he has to return in a body, and he has to return visibly. And they use that, they reason that way because of this phrase, in just the same way. The King James puts it in just the same manner, I do believe it is, okay? Different ways in different translations. But the point is, they interpret in just the same way out of the NASB to mean exactly, precisely the same exact way. Well, the problem with that is that that phrase in the Greek doesn't have to mean specifically, precisely, in minute detail, the exact same way. And I'm going to show you that, okay? In Acts chapter 1, verse 11, the phrase in just the same way is from the Greek words hos tropos, okay? And it means same manner, similar fashion, like as, same as, similar, manner. It means all of those things. But like I said, it doesn't have to mean exactly, precisely to every jot and tittle the same way. And I'm going to show you that, okay? We're going to look at a couple different texts in the New Testament that use this same phrase, hos tropos, and see if we can use the dispensationalist interpretation on those texts and see what we come up with. Go with me to Matthew chapter 23 and 37. And this is, I might have to go to my Bible here. My computer is being slow today. So Matthew chapter 23 and verse 37. Oh, it got it here. Listen to this. This is what Jesus said after pronouncing the 7 woes to the scribes and Pharisees in his generation. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her, how often I wanted to gather your children together the way, hos tropos, a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were unwilling. See, these words, the way, in the way a hen gathers her chickens, is host tropos, same as Acts 1:11. So let me ask you a question. Was Jesus hoping to gather Israel physically under his body, sit on them and brood on them in just the same way as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings? No, of course not. Jesus is using this language to compare a theme, to compare the nature of how he would gather Jerusalem, gather Israel. See, as a hen in nurture and in love and in protection gathers her chickens, Jesus wanted to restore and to gather Jerusalem, Israel, to himself, to reconcile them in just the same way as a hen does to her chickens. Okay? Doesn't mean precisely, exactly the same way a hen does. It's a comparison. Go with me now to 2 Timothy chapter 3. And I was going to get ready to go here in the Bible because, there we go. 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 8. Watch this. Paul is writing to Timothy, and at this time there is these apostates who are wreaking havoc doctrinally and morally in the church. And listen what Paul says. Just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, so these men, okay, who he's referring to, also opposed the truth. Men of depraved mind, rejected in regard to the faith. Here's the thing again. Just as is the Greek phrase, the Greek words hos tropos, same as Matthew 23:37 and Acts 1:11. Just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, in other words, in just the same way that Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, these men were opposing the truth. Now, Jannes and Jambres are suggested to be magicians who opposed Moses in the Exodus. Moses threw down his staff, so did Jannes and Jambres. These magicians opposed the authority of Moses and the purpose of redemption, and they threw down their staffs and they became serpents and snakes just like Moses' staff. Was Paul saying that these men in his day were throwing down staffs and they were becoming snakes? And they were opposing plagues that Paul and the apostles were bringing upon Israel? Was it meant to be in just the same way as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses? That these men were opposing Paul and his apostolic authority and the gospel of the kingdom? No, again, it's comparison. Just as Jannes and Jambres opposed the authority of Moses and the authority of Jehovah, these men were opposing the apostolic authority of Paul and the apostles and the gospel of the kingdom, and they're opposing the plan of redemption in and through Israel. It's a comparison. It's not meant to be pressed into exactly the same precise way. And the same is true of Acts chapter 1 and verse 11. Okay? Let me read it again. This Jesus, who has been taken up from you into heaven, will come in just the same way as you've watched him go into heaven. It doesn't mean exactly to the specific detail as you saw him go, he's going to come. Because as we're going to see, the coming of the Lord is revealed, is prophesied in many different ways and in many different manners. Listen, if Jesus has to come in the exact same way as they saw him leave in Acts 1, in a cloud from the Mount of Olives, in the open sky, in a body, well, what about the Lord coming in flaming fire? What about him coming on a white horse? Did they see him leave on a white horse in flaming fire? You see, you can't press that language to mean exactly, specifically, precisely, in every detail, the same thing, the same way. It won't work. It's not consistent with the way that word is used in the Bible, and it's not consistent with the rest of the biblical texts regarding the coming of the Lord, specifically the time for the coming of the Lord. And listen, we got lots more to share about Acts 1 And we'll see you next time on Answers on Eschatology. Bye for now.